what I've noticed over the past just few months, a lot of these very simple games are coming out and people are loving them. And they're just, it probably takes a fraction of the team that someone like Illuvium or these AAA teams are trying to put together these very big projects. But you look at games like Kiera Wilds, which they had like a 2 week play test or a 2 week airdrop play to airdrop period, and I was playing that every day, and I was loving that game. And it was very simple. It was actually like a pixelated version of Breach almost. You just go into these different worlds and things come to attack you. Then you have Gigaverse, Pirates Nations, Pixels for a while. I think Pixels is still a big thing. So I guess in hindsight, when you look back at a game like Illuvium or some of those other AAA style games, would it have been a better move just to stick with something more simple, or do you think in the long run this AAA style is the right approach? Paz, you want to start on that?
Sure, I'm gonna stick to what I said earlier. We were positioned to go to the moon if everything went right. Like the best case scenario for Illuvium was really good. There was some mistakes made and it didn't happen and whatever the reasons were. So for the worst case scenario, I think it's not that good, I guess, because we invested so much in everything that we're kind of in over our heads. But that being said, we still have a lot of potential. We're sticking out among these masses of crypto games. Like what sticks out? The visuals, and we got those visuals. Nobody can take those away. And
Yeah, and
yeah, I
that's
think
that's one of the big draws for me. Like when I started in this whole area, it was with Axie Infinity, and it was a very simple, not pixelated, but like the art was very simple. And when I saw Illuvium, I was just like, all right, this is going to be like the big AAA thing, this Pokemon style thing that I'm gonna, love to play. And that's one of the main things that drew me in. But like, yeah, in hindsight, you look and it's just like it cost a ton of money to get to where we are now. And these other games are popping up, some of them out of nowhere, were probably built in 6 months, and people are loving it and people are playing it.
yeah, maybe we went a bit too extreme, right? Because we are probably not only Web3, like in the whole gaming space, we're probably one of the best visuals ever, which is crazy. So maybe we went a bit crazy, and now we actually have to downsize to increase performance, to make it available on weaker systems, also to be able to integrate everything into mobile. That being
Yeah.
said, it's way easier to downgrade than to upgrade. So I think all the Illuvials and all the assets are already ready for the mobile version. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. Taron, what do you think?
Okay, about the AAA thing. Is it the right thing to do? I think there's value in it. You see games like Wukong, you see games like that. Obviously, GTA 6 is coming out. There is value to it. The issue with it is the budget, and we're seeing this in across the gaming industry as a whole. We see it with, I believe it's Monolith Games. I believe that's the studio and its name. The guys that did Shadow of War, Shadows of Mordor, Monolith. So they just shut down, I believe it was in the last 48 hours. Warner Brothers has now canceled the Wonder Woman game. I don't know who would want to play that game anyway, or while it was in development, but that was shut down. There's obviously we saw Concord recently. So the issue with AAA games is that it's very different from how it was back in the day in the PS2, Xbox 360 era, where we saw games come out so frequently, budget was less. And I think that's why Nintendo is actually positioned in a very unique way. And why am I saying all of this? Where is all of this tying into? AAA games cost a lot to make, which means that their success requires a lot more players, a lot more revenue. It's a lot harder for them to even break even than it is a non-AAA game, which is why I think Nintendo, who was never caught up in that hardware war, is actually positioned that, because, I mean, would we consider Mario Party or Mario Kart to be a AAA game? Not really. They're relatively casual games, but they do so well. And they don't require even I forget the actual amount. I did some research on this maybe a week ago, but I forget how much the budget was for Breath of the Wild, the Zelda game. It was so minimal compared to all of these other games that we see. For them to even break even was so simple. I won't say it was still a great thing to achieve, but it wasn't like what we're looking at now in PlayStation and even PC gaming. So is there room for AAA games? Absolutely. Should everyone be doing it? No. And I think we're going to see it as more studios close down, not just in the Web3 game, in the Web2 game gaming industry, that we're going to start to see a bit of a shift into less requirement or less hype about fidelity and more just about fun gameplay. There is a reason, I think it's called Overcooked. I think that was the game. Overcooked, Among Us, Fall Guys. There is a reason all of these games were popular. Like, it's not the high fidelity that made them cool. Certain games, Final Fantasy Rebirth, games like that, where it's story driven, that makes sense. Where you want to make that you want to make that a cinematic experience. I can understand that, but most games don't require that. But most games are chasing it, and they're just setting themselves up for, I won't say failure, but a much harder time. So I think we're going to start to see a shift in the gaming industry where not all games are going to be chasing that. And if they do, we're going to see a lot more studios get shut down and a lot more layoffs.
Yeah. And I even
A
look at
risk and
my
reward.
yeah. So I was gonna say I even look at my daughter who's she's about to be 9 years old. So her and her little friends like they've been playing video games together like on the iPads, and they're always playing Roblox and Minecraft. And neither of those are
Still,
they're big games. A ton of people play them, but they're simple games. You don't look at them and you're just like, oh, this is a AAA game and the graphics look great. They're just fun games to play. And that's what I see with some of these other Web3 games that are popping up recently. Like they're just fun games. You don't necessarily need those great AAA quality visuals. Even though I think, like you said, there is a place for those. And I'm glad Illuvium took that route. And when it's all said and done, I think it's going to be, a tough road, but I think it's going to be the smart decision for them.
See, I think, sorry to cut you off here.
Yeah.
I think Illuvium did the right thing with starting up. Like, if we look at the actual assets in the game compared to the NFT assets, they're not the same quality. The NFT assets being AAA, like on the highest level, makes complete sense, and I understand that. And we're seeing right now, and I think what even Kieran and some of the team have mentioned this publicly, the fact that it was so high fidelity. Let's compare it with Palworld. Palworld was able to get away with a lot more things because it wasn't as high fidelity. Like the jank was a part of its charm, not a hindrance. Whereas if you go super high fidelity, the jank starts to look out of place. It looks weird. Like it just takes you out of the immersion of it. So what we've tried to do, and I think we've been seeing it in Going Hyper with Dick and the rest of the guys, Llama and all that, is we've been doing this for the past year and a half, or Illuvium's been doing this for the past year and a half, is making them low poly models. And what that means is that they have less triangles, so it's less detailed, essentially. And I think once you do that, that opens up a lot more things where you've got these high quality assets in the NFTs, and we do have the high quality assets, but we can utilize the low poly assets and not make AAA games. Like I think there's so much we can do, and it's definitely more expensive to go high poly to low poly because you need to start off with that foundation. But I think it's better that we have done that, because then it's easier to go low poly than it is from low to high. That's a lot more effort. So it's like Illuvium's front loaded the hardware. So yeah, I don't think they need to be going AAA with everything that they do.